Hi, welcome to part 2 of this series of videos looking at fitting a Webasto diesel-fired heater to my Freelander 2. This is a 2009 2.2 litre TD4 diesel engined Land Rover Freelander 2. It's the XS model. It has the winter pack, the climate pack, including heated windscreen, heated mirrors, headlight washers, things like that. But one thing that it doesn't come with is an auxiliary heater, a diesel-fired heater. These are fitted to a lot of Discoveries and Range Rovers, Range Rover Sport, and to some Freelander 2s in colder parts of the world. This is a UK model, so it doesn't have one fitted, but I'm going to look at fitting one. I've bought one on eBay. In the last video we looked at what I'd bought, and now I'm going to look at dismantling it and building a sort of test bed to try and fire it up, see if it even works, and then we can look at fitting it to the car. So locations for possible fitment include down here, maybe behind the wing. That is my favoured location at the moment. The factory position for it is up in this wheel arch, up in there somewhere. I'm not keen on fitting it there. It just doesn't really seem like a good place to put it, if you ask me. I shall certainly investigate that location by removing the wheel arch and seeing where it goes, seeing where it can go on the factory fitted options. Freelander 1 and Discoveries mount it behind here down the front. So there's a lot of things to think about. It's not just the heater unit, there's also water pumps, the electrics, the fuel tank if I'm not taking the diesel from the main fuel tank, and all the plumbing of the water into the heating system, into the heater hoses. You can't just plumb into the radiator hoses down the front here, because those are controlled by the engine thermostat. So if it's a cold morning, all that will happen is the radiator gets hot and it doesn't actually heat up the engine or the inside of the car. So it is important that it's plumbed into the heater hoses, and various sort of electronics that go on to control it. You can't just give it 12 volts and turn it on. You have to actually send it a command to start. And what I'd like to do is to actually have a remote control key fob that I can actually press a button on a cold morning, press a button from inside the house, and the heater will start up and fire up and warm up the car without even starting the engine. So I don't need to actually come out and unlock the car and start the engine and leave it running with a set of keys inside with nobody in it. So the idea is that the heater runs for a few minutes and consumes a small amount of diesel, and then warms up the engine, warms up the interior of the car. Even though I've got a heated windscreen, it would still be nice if I hopped in the car and warm air came out of the vents straight away. So that's the idea. What we'll do now is have a look at the heater that I've bought on eBay secondhand, and I'll start stripping it down and look at building some kind of sort of test bed. Get a wooden board, a piece of MDF sheet or something like that, and screw all the various bits and bobs down to it so that we can actually run it up sort of on the bench, rather than actually fitting it to the car and then finding out it doesn't really work. So I thought it'd be a good idea to rig it all up off the car, just to test it and get a feel for how it works. Okay, let's have a look at the heater. So what I've done here is to give us a bit of a strip down. So I've taken off the exhaust system with the silencer, the water pump, the air intake pipe with this, which I thought was a filter, but I think it's more of a silencer for the air intake. Both of these brackets and bits of hose, including the fuel hose here. This wiring, this connector and wire here go to the water pump. So what we're left with is the main unit here. That's the exhaust outlet. It's quite sooty, and air intake there, Let's see if we can turn this around a bit. So we've got air in, fuel in, exhaust out, various connectors here. So that one there, which was broken off, I've glued that in. That's the power connector. We've got the 8-pin connector here for the data. It also, as far as I know, has an output that starts the water pump and the fuel pump. And then this connector here, actually that connector there is for the water pump. There's some, it might be actually an output for the fuel pump, and possibly to switch a relay to turn on the blowers in the car. The various pins there, which I need to research exactly which is which, and which one I need to send the data commands in on. Turning this over, you can now see the coolant in and out. I've actually removed that screw there. You can see here these are still wet actually from where it used to be used. You can actually rotate these round, which is useful. Is position those pointing in the same direction. They were going in different directions before. Get that screw back in there, and that'll tighten that plate down against those seals there. There's some rubber O-rings there, some sort of sealing flat faces on the ends of the pipes there on the other side of this metal plate. What I'll do is set those both in the same direction. Now, these things can run any way up from what I've seen. I've seen them mounted like that, like this, back to front and upside down. I'd like to try to mount it that way up. The reason for that is, first of all, I just think it is the right way, if there is one. This is the combustion chamber, so there's a fan in here that blows air down into there, and then the glow plug is at the top, and the fire sort of goes down and then round and up and out of the, or round and up and out of here. The label is that way round, that way up, I believe for a reason, and that's because that is the natural way that should go, with the air being blown down into the burner. Some people may argue it needs to go the other way up so that the heat rises, or whatever. I mean, I think they will work any way round. The air gets blown through and ignited and comes out of the exhauster. But I'd like to mount it that way up. I will put these, what's that, bit of plastic, hopefully that's not off this. I will put this plate on with those hoses pointing upwards, okay, and then try to mount this that way up with the hoses kind of coming along and down onto there. If I end up doing it a different way, if it ends up being on its side, then I can just loosen that and rotate these around to whatever angle I need. But I think it's certainly a start. What I'd like to try and do is sort of clamp this into my sort of workbench with the adjustable sort of clamping jaws on the top. Lock that in, connect up new hoses, new fuel hose, new water hoses to this pump, connect it up to a driver circuit to send the data, and with some long water hoses in and out of here going into a sort of a large bucket of water. We'll send it a command and see if it fires up, and if it does, then I'll start having a look at where I mount it on the car. One thing that I have found from research is that these in and out water sort of input and outlet really do need to connect to the heater circuit the heater hoses in the car rather than the radiator hoses. The reason for that is the thermostat in the top of the engine is closed when it's cold, so no water circulates through the radiator. So if I start trying to pump water down those hoses, all that will happen is the radiator will get hot. It won't heat the engine. Whereas the heater circuit is the other side of the thermostat, and that's always circulating. So that is where I need to connect into. I've had a quick look at the engine bay. I can't even see where the heater hoses are, but I'm sure I'll find them. Might try and get underneath the engine and look up the back and see if I can see them there. So now that I've stripped down this Webasto heater, I've decided to bolt it onto a piece of wooden board. This is just a piece of thick, 18mm thick MDF. So I'm going to actually screw it down into the middle of that and assemble the entire system on here, completely off the car, as a kind of a test bed, like a breadboard as they call it, to actually get everything running, see if it even works, and then if it does, I can then put it on the car. So I've been shopping on eBay, bought myself a large selection of goodies. Let's have a little look and see what I've bought here. So that is the water pump, which came off the heater. Okay, so I've kind of taken that off, taken the clamp off it, and then for that I've got some 3/4 inch 19mm hose. Should have actually probably bought 20mm diameter, internal diameter. This seems a little bit of a tight fit getting this on, but I might be able to kind of soften the end slightly in some hot water. Get those on. So this is water hose. The pump goes on the cold side. So a bit of hose from the the inlet there to the pump, and then from the pump to a bucket of water, and then the outlet will have, this is 2 meters long, so the other meter will go on the outlet. That will go into a bucket. And I've bought somewhere here a little aquarium thermometer, so that can give us a readout of the water temperature using this kind of stick-on probe. Stick that in the water or on the on the hose coming from the heater, and that will tell us if it's getting warm or not, and we can see what sort of temperature it gets up to. What else have I bought? Okay, so this item here is a small 2.5 litre fuel tank. It's got a kind of fitting outlet thing inside, somewhere in there, in a bag in there, which I need to somehow fit into the bottom of this. So it's got a bracket on the back with a couple of bolts, so that will actually screw onto here with a hose coming out the bottom. Bought some 4mm internal diameter hose here. This hose, whilst it's not, it's certainly not copper pipe, and it's not sort of the black rubber kind of fuel line hose. It did say in the listing that this will handle petrol and diesel. It's only to test. So I wouldn't use hose like this when fitting it on the car. This is just for the prototype. So clear plastic hose there. Got a couple of clips here to run from the fuel line to the little fuel inlet there, and via the pump, of course. So there's the pump, cheap Chinese pump. Takes 12 volts, and that should be, it was rated high enough for 5 kilowatts as the rating of the heater. Tends to be rated by heater power. I'm sure that will be fine. I've seen another video on YouTube of somebody using a similar pump and it worked fine. And a couple of little clips. I don't even know if those will be needed or not, but I thought I'd play safe and get those. The last thing we want is a fuel line popping off and spraying diesel all over the hot heater. So what else have we got here? Now, this little gizmo here is the most important bit of the lot. So this is, if I can open that with one hand carefully, you can see in there some electronic circuits. So this unit was bought on eBay. It came from a guy in Romania, and this works with this remote control. So we get this and we press that, you've got on and off, and inside here is a little radio receiver that receives the remote control signal, and you connect up to 12 volts, and then the yellow wire is the output which sends the command to the W bus pin. I forget which pin it is. Where's the connectors? Here they are. So one of these pins here, I can't remember which one it is. It might be pin 5. I think it's pin 5 or 2 or something like that. When I wire all this up, I'll make sure I get the right pins. One of those is the W bus input, so that will be the yellow wire from here. The blue wire is just a sort of a 12 volt output that goes high when this turns on. So you could use that for, you could use it for turning on the water pump. I don't need to do that because the water pump's got its own connections here. That plug there is for the water pump, so the heater itself turns the water pump on. The other thing, of course, is the blowers in the car. However, I've discovered there's another pin on here, which I think is pin 8, which goes to 12 volts when the water reaches 40 degrees C, and that really is designed to let the thing warm up slightly, and when it starts to heat the water, it then turns on the blowers in the car to start blowing warm air. So I probably won't use that blue wire. I'll see when I come to it. I'm not sure yet. So I've also got here a little digital voltmeter, ammeter there, which I can wire up onto the heater just to see what current it's drawing. I mean, the voltage is going to be about 12 volts, I know that, but I'm more interested in the current. Let's turn that one off to save some power. So what is this? Okay, so we've got a fan here. This is just a 80mm PC case type fan, cooling fan like you'd find on the back of a computer. So the reason I've bought this fan is because I would like to show the output that I was just talking about that turns on the blowers in the car. Okay, so the idea is that we use this little wire wound resistor here. This is a, what is it? It's a 1 watt, I think it is, 25 ohms, 25 ohm, 1 watt variable resistor. It's a wire wound one. This I think pulls about 0.2 of an amp or something like that. It's not a lot. So the idea here is that I can connect that in series with the fan, dial this down, or increase the resistance on that to slow the fan down, so we can see the blowers in the car acting normal. Because don't forget, in the Freelander 2, if you put it onto the program demist mode or auto, it will run the blowers very slow until the engine warms up, and then they'll automatically speed up. So what I'd like to do is to simulate that by showing the fan spinning slowly, resisted, and then using one of these, a changeover relay, 5-pin changeover relay, we'll take the output from the heater. So when the water reaches 40 degrees, the relay clicks and the fan goes to full speed to show the blowers in the car speeding up. I just think that's it's a bit of a gimmick, a bit of a slightly unnecessary kind of thing, but I just think it will be brilliant. So we will then know if the blowers in the car will actually speed up and go to full power when the water heats up. Talked about the pump here. There's a couple of these. I've bought loads of wire here, so we've got some various colours here I'll use. Blue for the water pump, yellow for the W bus, green for the fuel, and black for earth, and then we've got some thicker wire here for the main 12 volt connection to, I'll just use an old car battery to power that. What have we got here? Various connectors here. Now I'm not going to open up these bags and get all these out, but we've got a 2-pin connector there which goes onto the power, and we've got this one here which is actually connects to the fuel pump, okay, and this one here which is our sort of 8-pin connector which will connect to this plug here. Rather than using soldered wires or crop clips or something like that, I thought I'd spend a little bit extra, get the proper connectors really and do it properly. So this one here is for the water pump, so that'll already have its connector here plugged in, and then we'll have the correct proper Webasto connectors on here and here to some flying leads to the wire, to wire those in. Bought some fuses here. I'll probably actually use this rather than these. I bought these as well. These are just inline blade fuse holders, but this one, I quite like this one actually. It's got capacity for 4 blade fuses here. So the beauty of that is I can have, say, a 20 amp or a 30 amp on the main feed in, and then I can actually fuse things like the fuel pump, maybe the water pump, and some of the electronic modules. I can actually fuse those separately with smaller rated fuses, lower current rated fuses. I bought here to help with the wiring up, to make it all neat and tidy, some cable ties and some of these little cradle things which will screw onto the wood here. And then finally this. Now I rescued this from a skip many years ago, a place I used to work at. They were doing some renovations to the office, and part of those involved getting rid of an old workshop, and this was thrown away, which looked useful at the time, so I picked it up, and I've never used it in 20 odd years, and now I found a use for it. So this is just an emergency stop button. You just turn to release. I just thought that might be a useful safety feature. We are burning diesel here. We've got high current electrics, car battery connected up to something that's burning diesel. I mean, there's a recipe there for it all going horribly wrong and just ending up in a big fireball. So I thought if I wire the 12 volts through this, actually connect that onto the board here, just sort of over at the side where it's easy to reach in the event of a disaster, I can just press that, shut the whole thing down, the Webasto turns off, the fuel pump turns off, everything stops. Okay, that's the idea. Safety first. I shall also have my trusty fire extinguisher close by. Right, so the next step is to bolt all of this down onto this board. It's going to take a little while to plan it all out, position everything, screw it all down, and then once it's all in place, I can put some diesel in this bottle and try and turn it on. Press the button, see what happens. It may work, it may not. We'll see. So what I've done here is loosely position everything onto this wooden board. I've got our fuel tank here, power input here with emergency stop button, feeding through fuses, ammeters to the control module, relays coming out here for the fan, and I will probably put a fuel pump on a relay as well. It doesn't have to be on a relay, but it would just be nice to protect that using a relay. We've got our Webasto unit and the water pump here, so the output, or the input, the output will go down here to a bucket of water, and then the input connects here to the pump, which will then join the other hose down there. So what I need to do now is screw all of that down and wire it all up, connect the hoses, connect the wires, connect a battery, put some fuel in the tank, and then press the button and see if it works. Okay, so most of these things are bolted down now. That's screwed down, that's screwed down, that, the relays, fan, things still to do. This needs some kind of mounting clamp or housing to attach that. I don't really know what to do on that. I could 3D print some sort of mounting piece for that. It doesn't even have any kind of screw holes or anything. It was designed to go into a panel. I don't want to actually embed that into the wood. I'm trying to reduce any kind of bolts or wires coming through to the other side. All of these things here have just been screwed down with self-tappers that have gone just into the MDF, not all the way through. The exception to that will be the Webasto, just because it's really heavy, and it's got these there are 3 N5 holes on the back here which are about 10mm deep. So in order to mount that on, I've drilled some 6mm holes here, and then I'm going to use some countersunk bolts on the other side. Countersunk bolts on the other side coming up through these holes into the back of this to bolt that in place. Don't really want any bolt heads on the other side of this, really, if I can help it, because I want to be able to place this board sort of flat on whatever surface or table I'm putting on without risking things sticking out the other side which are going to kind of scratch surfaces or etc. What else? This here just needs a sticky pad on the back of it to bolt that down, to stick that down. That'll go there. I need to 3D print some kind of clamp to go around the pump, to sort of clamp that like a sort of a horseshoe shaped clamp over there, with 2 screws in there to kind of hold that in place. Same for the water pump, although it will be lying on its side, so a sort of a circular clamp around the water pump, with a couple of screws to clamp that in place. I thought about originally mounting this sort of that way. I actually think it's going to work better like that, putting it sort of end on, because when this is in place and these outlets are turned the other way round, then that lines up perfectly with that. So I'll just run a bit of hose up there, and then the hot pipe will come down here, with that one going down there to the bucket of water. Okay, so a bit of designing still to do. Once those extra bits are mounted in place, it's a case of wiring it all up. Not quite there yet, but getting there. Okay, I've mounted the Webasto heater on here now. So I've just done that using a couple of Allen head bolts, which I've just countersunk in there. So that is mounted on there correctly now. I need to turn these around and make up the mounting brackets for the 2 pumps, the fuel pump and the water pump, and then fit the receiver module and the voltmeter on there. Connect everything up, and then we're good to go. Okay, so I've been busy wiring up let me talk you through the story so far. So here's our power connections here. They go to a car battery for 12 volts. Might need some bigger crop clips on here actually. I don't think those will go over car battery terminal. We've got our emergency stop button coming in here, main 12 volt feed in through 15 amp fuse into this connector block here. 3 wires coming back out through assorted fuses here. We've got 5 amps there powering this here, which is controlling the fan over here. So that's the fan speed, and sending that signal out here to this changeover relay here. So the fan will either run at a speed set by this variable resistor, or full power by a signal, a blue wire here that comes from the Webasto itself when the water reaches 40 degrees. We've also got plus feeding this relay here, which runs the fuel pump. That's connected, this tube here needs connecting to this outlet here on the fuel tank, and that runs then into the heater. And then finally this, so the fuel pump there's 15 amp, then I've got a 5 amp fuse here going to this wire here, which is feeding the control module. We've also got our thermometer here with a probe, which will be put into a bucket of water, and have these hoses here sent to it. So here's our water pump with a 3D printed bracket, and then this hose comes up here through the heater and down to the bucket. So a few more things to solder up, and then we can put some diesel in the tank and fire it up. Right, battery, 12 volts, turn on, not a lot of current being drawn. We've got diesel there, the diesel's all the way up there. That's the only little air bubble in the whole thing. That's solid diesel there. Fuel pump is currently connected to the green wire, which is the fuel pump drive output from the Webasto. Okay, so I'm going to attempt to start that. Right. Webasto starts its fan. Didn't hear the fuel pump do a kick then. Oh, that is red hot. Absolutely red hot. I don't know if it's supposed to be like that. I mean, that's been off for about a quarter of an hour and it's still hot. Let's just see if we can get this temperature probe going. See, the Webasto starts up, revs up, then it goes quiet, slow, and then it slowly speeds up. The glow plug's not running though. I'm only putting 0.6 of an amp. Right, outdoor temperature, 23.1. Not a lot of difference there, so nothing's burning. I'd say the glow plug's not even running. Earlier on today, when I ran this, that went off the scale over 10 amps, which meant the glow plug was being used, but ever since then, it's not doing it, so could have burnt it out. Fuel pump is doing nothing, so what I'm going to do, disconnect the fuel pump drive wire. Now that's very interesting. As soon as I disconnected that, the Webasto stopped. I don't know if that was just coincidence. Let's see if we can. Might have been just coincidence. Oh, right, here we go. Right, now what I'm going to do is pulse the fuel pump. You can hear it. That bubble was gone. Temperature has risen slightly. I'm kicking that pump via the relay. You can see a bubble in there. It's getting kicked about. So fuel's moving. Temperature has risen slightly. We're now at still hardly any current. When I kick the pump, 3 amps. So the pump's drawing quite a lot of current. That is now too hot to touch. 25.4, so something's happening. Something is happening. The temperature's gone up slightly. This is not hot. There's no heat coming out of that. Just a lot of diesel-y fumes. The air that's coming out of this stinks really badly of diesel. Let's click this. Come on. You can see this bubbles jumping about. No, Webasto's given up. I think it gives it about a minute or two and then it goes, I'm not starting, due to whatever. Lack of fuel, lack of glow plug. The water pump's knackered, but there's water in here. The hoses are just there, there's water in there. So it's not overheating. I mean, this is cold, so it's not a water issue. I'd say it's either a glow plug or a fueling issue. My guess is the glow plug's not firing up. Diesel is coming through and being blown out of the exhaust, but it's not being lit. Looks like I've blown the glow plug. Oh well, tomorrow's fun and games. Right. Okay. Right, Webasto water pump. 2 wires, black and brown. Neutral, live maybe. plus 12, ground. I mean, black is always ground, always ground. That is the convention. You never ever use black for anything other than 0 volts. Connect that. This is the positive terminal. Nothing at all. Let's just try it the other way around. Black for positive. I hear a pump running. Who'd have thought it? Black for plus 12. Unbelievable. Okay, quick update on this as I'm starting to tear my hair out with this. It's just not working. So we've got here diesel in the tank, fuel line there, full of diesel, no air bubbles. The pump is wired up via the relay to the green wire, which goes to the Webasto pin 5, I think it is. I've temporarily pulled this out and actually connected the pins to the pins directly, just using the inserts that go into that, just to rule out the possibility that they weren't connecting when I pushed the connector on. So we've got a yellow wire, which is our communications, that comes from the radio receiver. Green is the output for the fuel pump. I've tried it directly to the fuel pump, it just does nothing. When I connect the fuel pump directly to 12 volts, it does one pulse and then gets hot, which leads me to believe that you don't just wire it up to 12 volts, it actually needs a pulsing signal. I think this green wire actually pulses with a sort of square wave to actually cause the pump to pump. You don't just connect it and it works out how much to pump, which is what I thought. Talking of pumps, the water pump, when it's connected up correctly to this Webasto plug with the original Webasto wires, brown, which becomes blue, which went into brown, and black is black all the way up, the pump doesn't run. And when I swap the wires, it still doesn't run, but when I hardwire it to 12 volts with the black as positive, it does run, and it runs in the right direction. Absolutely bizarre. So I connected up this up to here, connected up with the hoses to a bucket of water, and the pump was not strong enough to lift the water up to here. Even when I filled the hoses with water to get rid of any air, it still would not lift the water up. So I've just abandoned the water side of things for now, disconnected that and put some water in here, turned these upright, put a bit of water in there. The heater doesn't seem to be getting hot at the moment. I don't know why. So I just need to try and figure out what's going on here. I don't think the glow plugs are lighting. This fuse here yesterday was a 15 amp fuse, and that blew. This was pulling more than 10 amps, and this ammeter only goes up to 10 amps. That was going off the scale and blanking. So I've swapped the 15 amp fuse for a 25 amp fuse. Now using a 5 amp for the fuel pump and the fan arrangement here, and then a 1 amp for the electronics here. Let's turn it on. Press this. The heater runs up, the combustion fan inside starts, it goes through its self-test and then slows down. Now the manual says that it should do that and should then slowly speed up and ignite the fuel with a glow plug, but what's happening is it's speeding up for about a minute and then it's shutting down and stopping. There's lots of diesel-y fumes and vapour coming out of here, but it's not getting hot. So either the glow plug is not running, not heating up, or the fuel is not flowing, or something. I don't know what's going on with it really. It's running up, but it's just chucking out smelly diesel vapour. Not getting hot. There's no heat coming out of that. So I'm really not sure what's going on. I've disconnected this. I've tried doing a fault reset, which involves starting the device and then literally cutting the power within about 5 seconds. I've tried that several times, no luck. I'm running out of ideas on this really. I'm beginning to think this is faulty and I need to get another one. So the next thing to try will be to prise this cover off and get a meter and test the glow plugs, the pump output and things like that. They shut down now because it didn't ignite, so it's gone into fail-safe and shut down. The pump it just doesn't seem to be doing anything. We're not pulling much current, so glow plug certainly isn't running. Bit of a tricky one really. I need to work out what's going on. Okay, so I've got the multimeter here. This is on resistance 200 ohm range, and we've got 0.4 of an ohm there for that glow plug. Sounds pretty low, but it's not an open circuit. Now I'd need to look up what a glow plug is meant to be if it was working or in good condition, but I think that is alright. So next thing I'll do is get the meter onto these terminals and see if 12 volts is coming out when the glow plug is meant to be igniting. Okay, here we are, another day, another attempt at getting this working. I've made a couple of major changes. The first change is with the Webasto itself. I bought another one. This one, the one I was trying to get going, I think is faulty. I think there's something going on inside it. The glow plug is not burnt out, so the resistance of the glow plug I checked, it's meant to be about 0.3 ohms. I think I got 0.4. The glow plug's fine, but it's only being fed with 5 volts instead of 12. There's something not right with this one. Now I will take it apart and strip it down and investigate as a separate video. I think I haven't got time to do it now really, but sometime in the future I'll take it apart, see if I can find out what was wrong with it. In order to get this thing going and get this video finished so I can put it up on YouTube, I forked out 35 quid and bought another second-hand Webasto. This is exactly the same Thermo Top V. Couple of very slight differences. This old one says 42 watts. This one's 34. Both diesel, both 5 kilowatts of output heat. But this 34, this is the electrical power. So there's a difference, possibly a different glow plug or a different fan or something else different about it, I don't know. This one didn't come with a water pump, so I've got the other water pump down here, but I've just left the whole water pump disconnected for now. I've just got my temperature probe in, some water in here. This one came off a Jaguar. It was a Jaguar S-Type, I think, or something like that. The other one came off a Range Rover Sport. This plate here is slightly different, but it works exactly the same way. These actually have a sort of kind of castellated sort of teeth, which the other one didn't have, meaning that these are not free to rotate. You have to kind of take them out and turn them and put them back in. I've put them back in, I've put water in, I did that earlier today, and the water level hasn't dropped, so the seals are okay. As for how old this one is, it's got 2004, 2005, 2006 written on there, with various sort of little notches cut out. It doesn't really say which year it's made. This one says 06, 07, 08, which would lead me to believe this is slightly newer. However, the serial number or article number right at the bottom there is 9004. This was 9005, which suggests this one possibly slightly newer. They look exactly the same. Hopefully this one will work. I've connected it up exactly the same as before. I've actually decided to reuse this connector here. Now the new one luckily came with all of the plugs, all of the proper plugs. Now I've managed to get hold of one of these, which I had to buy from Turkey of all places. Nowhere in the UK seems to have these connectors. That one I had to import in from Turkey at vast expense. That one was a power connector which I bought on eBay, but it didn't fit. So bear in mind that the C and Z type thermo tops have a different shape of power plug. This one looked right, but it just didn't fit. I had to chop it around, cut it about, and try and basically get that orange bit to sort of cut away the black surround, as you can see on this one here, leaving that orange bit inside. The black surround was the wrong shape. It looked right, but it just wouldn't quite fit. So now I've actually got a real connector. Okay, not a lot of wires on that, but I can either get those wires out and replace, or just bullet connect or solder onto those wires. Got another connector here, this 8-pin. Now again, this one, even though I paid about £18 I think for it, can't pull it out now, but again I had to chop around. That green thing that you can see there was causing trouble. It's the green bits each side slide to and fro. I think the purpose of those is to lock the pins in, but it just, the green bit was just stopping the connector from going in properly. So in the end I just kind of got annoyed with it and took a pair of pliers to it and ripped it out, and then the connector went in. Water pump connector, the new, well, this one, the new one, came with this water pump connector plugged in, but with no wires, which suggests on a Jaguar that the water pump is elsewhere and is wired from a different source. It's not fed from the heater. Doesn't matter for this, because these wires here are currently not actually connected to anything. There's no connection there, so that they're not being used. This little control module I bought actually suggests that this blue wire here is connected to the water pump, but I'm leaving the water side out of things at the moment. The water pump doesn't seem strong enough to pull water up from that bucket, so let's just leave that for now. Let's just see if we can get the thing to actually start up and get warm. The other major thing that I've done is to buy these rather nice and rather expensive indicator lights, make this 3D printed bracket. So what we have here, hopefully you'll actually see these light up in a moment. We've got a battery symbol, you can see there, battery, which is connected to the power. So once the power is turned on and power energizes here, that battery symbol comes on. We've got a fan symbol. Now originally I bought that for the fan here, but of course that's on a variable resistor and this is an LED, so I thought twice about, I thought it's best not to stick that on the fan output. There's no point in knowing this fan is turning, we can see it's turning. So I've decided to use that for the water pump. It's a sort of a propeller symbol. It's got a bit of a scratch on it actually, which is unfortunate, but it's a kind of a standardized fan symbol, like a sort of propeller. So let's just use it for the water pump. So because the water pump's not being used, I've connected that to this blue wire here, thought about connecting it up to here. We can try that as well, but just for now, let's use it as a general purpose heater running light. So this one comes on when the power is turned on. When I press the remote control and the heater gets sent its signal, this blue wire goes high, so that light comes on. So that light there, that fan symbol, we could actually use that as the combustion fan in there. That's a good idea. Let's use it as combustion fan. Fuel tank, fuel pump symbol. That is connected to the fuel pump line, this green wire, which I've put back on the relay. It could go direct to the fuel pump, doesn't really matter, it'll work either way, but the relay, the reason I put it through the relay is because it's a very loud click. This thing, when that sort of pumps, it just makes a little bit of a thumpy noise, doesn't do a lot. So I want to hear click, 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 you know, of the fuel pump running. Reading up in the manual, it looks like it should run at between 1 and 7 hertz, depending on the power output of the heater, whether the heater's at full power or whatever. But the heater works out the frequency to pulse the pump at. Now there is a bit of an air bubble in there at the moment. The trouble is this is slightly higher than that, which is annoying. The air bubble keeps sitting up there, but that's full of fuel. When I run this, we'll see if that moves down. Might need to try and take the hose off and bleed it out. But when that fuel pump wire here goes pulsed high, 12 volts, this relay will click, this light will flash, and the pump should pump. A lot going on there, so there'll be absolutely no doubt that it is trying to pump fuel. Okay, and then finally this light here, which is a sort of water temperature light, I've connected that to this blue wire on pin 8 of the 8-pin multi-way connector, and that blue wire goes to 12 volts when the water reaches 40 degrees. That's what should happen. So when the heater heats up, that wire will trigger this relay. That light will come on because that is wired around here to this. So that light will come on. This relay will click, and it will, instead of running the fan, this simulates our blowers in the air vents of the car, the heater inside the car. Instead of running at low speed or whatever we've set our knob to on the dashboard, the blowers then go full power, which is what should happen in the real world with the Webasto. The Webasto starts to heat up the water and it turns the blowers on full blast to get the inside of the car warmed up and de-iced and demisted and whatever. So that is it. That is what we've got now. I've stuck that temperature probe there. We've got ambient temperature 14, a little bit of a difference to yesterday. Yesterday was like 24 or something. It is noticeably colder today. And I've just stuck that probe just in that water there. Now, if this fires up, it's going to probably heat that water pretty quickly because there's no flow of water through it. So I need to be a bit careful. I need to be careful of a couple of things here. Boiling water spraying out there, soot, flames, God knows what, smoke coming out of here. This Jaguar one actually had, I mention it here, one of the other differences was it had a straight through exhaust, a straight exhaust sticking out of there, which would have meant splattering all of this with soot and whatever. I mean, it's probably not been run for a few years, so I've undone the couple of screws there. There are actually 4 holes under here, and I've just reused. Took the old screws out and put the other 2 diagonal ones in, and put this piece, reused this bit off the other heater. Actually, I'll show you on this one here. You can probably see. There you go. There's the 4 holes. Okay, so that one. Put that one down. Right. Okay. Are you ready for this? If this thing does start up and go a bit crazy, then I am going to have to hit the abort button. That's what it's there for. So This has not been fired up for a long time, this particular heater, and this system has never actually been used with a heater that gets hot. So right, we've got fuel in the tank. Let's just have a look in there. Yeah, the nozzle is the outlet is under diesel. Okay, let's turn this on, see what we've got. Right, power light, that's good. 12 volts, a little bit of current running this fan here. That one, that is being controlled nicely there. Water temperature 14. Right, here we go. Okay, that light's come on. That shows that the signal's been sent. Okay, so the ammeter, the voltage has dropped and the ammeter's gone off the scale, which means it's greater than 10 amps, which is good because it means the glow plug must be running. Oh, it's come back now. 8, 9 amps. 9 amps. Oh, I can see smoke. Okay, there's smoke coming out of this. That's good. That means it's burning something. And, it's getting a bit stinky. God, it smells like an old lorry or train diesel engine starting up. That's pretty bad, actually. Okay. Oh, something's happening. Fuel's being pumped. Uh-oh, here we go. Right, you can hear it's still running 9 amps. I think it's starting up. The fuel pump is going. Oh, it absolutely stinks. Real stink of smoke coming out of this. Really bad. Oh. Okay. Still pulling, nope, was still pulling 9 amps, dropped to 4. Fuel pump, no longer pumping. Lots of smoke. I think that's actually working. There's heat coming out of that. There is heat, and the fan is building up. The fuel pump, you can see that tiny little flash it's pumping a little bit now and again. This fan is speeding up now, and there's heat coming out of that. I think it's working. What's the temperature? 37 degrees. Okay, right, things are starting to go. Things are starting to go. I think we might have to do an emergency shutdown here. 37.9, 38. Okay. Right, that's hot. There's heat coming out of there. What I'm looking for is anything going on with that water. 39. I think it's working. Not a lot of heat coming out of that, it's just sort of warm fumes. I've got 1 amp now, so the glow plug's turned off. Fuel seems to have stopped pumping. It's flashing a little bit. The fuel's not moving along though. Fuel to 1. Nothing's happening with the water. I just kind of thought that water would have boiled over by now. But, okay. Right, well I think the next thing to do here really is to shut this down. Oh, it's actually shut itself down. Don't know why. Okay. Possibly lack of fuel. Maybe that air bubble. Fuel has stopped being delivered by the looks. Yeah. All right. Okay. I'm gonna do a shutdown, and then we'll try and find out why that didn't heat fully up. Okay. I'm gonna give that another shot. The exhaust is still smoking away there. There's a possibility that the battery, it might have shut down because the battery voltage is a bit low. I need to give that battery a bit of charge. It's dropping down to about 10 volts, which might be too low for the Webasto, and it might have shut down. So let's give it another shot and just see what happens. We're just getting a lot of air in the fuel line here. I need to try and get that out. .62 degrees, that's getting hot. That's hot. Smoky. No fuel going in. Eight to 9 amps there. Reactor 4. Okay, next thing to do is connect up the water pump to a bucket of water. Otherwise this is going to get way too hot. Okay, this is it. This is it. It's finally all rigged up. I've got the air out of the fuel line, I've got the air out of the water pipes. A bucket of water here with the temperature probe stuck into the end of the outlet. Everything is rigged up. I've just temporarily put the water pump just on a kind of a hard wire to 12 volts. I tried it on this output here, it just doesn't run. The Jaguar one didn't actually have anything connected here, so maybe it's had the water pump feature disabled in firmware, I don't know. I'm happy to run it through a separate feed. So, temperature of the bucket of water, 20 degrees exactly. Here we go. Turning on. Go on remote control. Fan starting, that means water pump, fan, the output from here is running. A little puff of smoke there as it blew out whatever was inside. You can hear a roaring sound. Little smoke coming out. I've got 9 amps, 8 to 9 amps. The glow plug is lit. That's what that smoke is. We'll get that warmed up and then it will start increasing the fan speed. Water here is circulating. The temperature has actually dropped slightly, if anything. Oh, here we go, here we go. Fuel's being pumped along. Every pulse of the fuel is injecting a mist of diesel into the heater. It's going for it now. It sounds like a steam train. Plug lit. Whoa. Shut down. Something's shut down there. We've got 5 amps now, 11 volts. Well, it raised the water by 5 degrees. Not a lot, but it's something. Why it shut down? Oh, I don't know if it has shut down, I don't know. Fan, I think this is it's cooling down now. It's cooling down. The fuel pump's not running, so. Hot air coming out of that. It's cooling off slightly. Okay. Easy on the outside of that pipe. I'll have to get those fuel clips on here. This is where I bled the air out. Okay. Well, it's getting there. It's getting there. We've now actually got heat coming out. Not a lot, but it's heating. 5 degrees as a start. 80 degrees would be better, but what I'm going to do is charge the battery and try it again, just in case it was a battery voltage shutdown. Don't know. I've ordered the diagnostics kit. It's the diagnostics USB connection, which we can connect in. Instead of this device here, we could connect the laptop up to the yellow wire, send it commands, and it'll send back error codes, and we'll be able to find out what's going on. Hopefully I can find out what's wrong with the other one as well. Okay, here we go. This is it. I'm going to try and do a full power test now. I've put this fuel filter on here, just in case any sediment or swarf or grot comes out of the bottle. I know this probably ought to be before the pump, but you never know, the pump could put some bits in. I just wanted to protect the actual heater unit and make sure that nothing blocks up the little tiny hole on the intake to the heater. I've purged out the air inside there, so that's full of fuel. Made another minor change here. I've just rigged the fuel pump directly to this green wire here, just using a 15 amp fuse as a sort of a way of connecting the wires together. And then this relay, which was driving the fuel pump, is now driving the water pump using the the blue wire here, which goes live when I turn the unit on with the remote control. Okay, so when I get the remote and I press on, the water pump will start. So a bucket of water here. These hoses, I've made sure there's no air inside them, they're full of water, and the temperature probe, which is currently reading 19.4, is stuck into the end of the outlet. So I'm going to start this up, and we'll see if we can rev it right up. My aim really for the end of this video, to conclude part 2 of this video series, is to get this working to a stage where this light here comes on, which means that the water is above 40 degrees C. So when the water in the heater reaches 40 degrees C, that blue wire should go live, that light should come on, and eventually we should start to get some pretty hot water in our bucket. It's a fairly cold day today, so we might even see some steam rising off that. Let's run it up and see how high we can get this to go. Right, let's turn on. Okay, start that up. Right, the current has gone off the scale, so that's a good thing. It means the glow plug's on, and it means it's drawing 10 to 15 amps. Let's come back now, 9, it's between 8 and 10 amps. So the glow plug will be on, it'll be warming. Once that's warmed, it will start injecting the fuel in, and hopefully it should get going properly, and eventually turn off the glow plug because it doesn't need it anymore, and away it goes, full power. Oh, here we go. You can see the little bubbles in the fuel line there. Very small amount of air inside that. Let's try to ignite. Water's circulating. The temperature is slowly rising. There we go. Water's getting warm. Water's getting warm. to stand near that. The exhaust fumes are too much. They're getting in my eyes and my throat. I'm going to need to rig up a proper exhaust, I think, since it's up the fumes away. It's pretty strong gas coming out of there. Really stinging my eyes. 37.5 degrees. Currently the output should go high at 40. We'll see if that happens. 5.6. 40, that's 40. That's like a hot bath, that. Very warm. I'm outside and it's a windy day, the fumes are pretty bad. I'm not seeing that light coming on. I don't see that relay switching. Load of water in that bucket. Could possibly be why it's taking a while to heat it. Right. I've got to move away. The fumes are really bad. Take it to 50 degrees. If the light hasn't come on there, then I'm going to shut it down. It's possible that something's not right with the wiring. Right. Oh, that's nice. That's nice hot water. Steaming away there. That's water's at 50 degrees, 50.6. The heater unit is going to go into its shutdown now. It'll run the fan for another couple of minutes just to cool itself off. I think what I need to do, let's try and put this on there to deal with the, I think really I need a proper exhaust system on this. Proper duct, taking the exhaust gas far away. It's quite bad. It's really hot. Okay, well, we didn't see our light come on, but I do believe that that was a successful test. It heated up a bucket of water to over 50 degrees in a couple of minutes, so it's working. It's working, it's heating up. The blowers in the car would not have actually come on, which is a shame. That's something for me to look at and see if I can get working. I think we'll leave it there for this video. I'll resume this project in video part 3. Don't forget to like and share and everything else, and subscribe as well. Don't forget to subscribe so you get notified when video part 3 is available. In part 3 I'll look at fitting this to the car. All of this lot, or most of it, is going to have to be packaged up into some sort of little box of electronics. So there's still lots to do, lots to think about, lots of designing to do. I don't know where I'm going to fit the heater, and I don't know where I'm going to fit the fuel tank. But at least I've got it working, which is great. We'll leave it there for today, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you for watching. Bye.